today we're going to dig into AI again because it is the hot topic, and specifically as it relates to social media. So I'm excited about this topic today because I think social media is one of those things we all are like, treading water sometimes, or we're at least out there hustling on the daily. So, how do we use AI more effectively to do what I think most of us should be doing if we're not with the intention of using social media to build community? Is the big overarching umbrella of what I think most of us are trying to do. So, how does AI impact that? So, we're going to talk about that today with our special guest. So, as you guys are coming in, though, just give me a shout out. Where in the world are you today? And we have some, I see we have some great comments already. Dola saying, or David Paul, sorry, David, is saying it sounds like an intriguing exploration of AI's impact on social media. Yes, I'm excited about this. And we have another, it says, sounds like this episode's going to shake things up. Absolutely. We always like the shaking up around here. We have Justin is saying this sounds intriguing. Can't wait to explore it. So yeah, we are excited about today's topic. And as always, please, please, please feel free to ask your questions as we go. We'll pull in as many questions as we can. I came with some questions because I'm always like inquiring mind, but I'm not the only one that has questions. So please, please, please drop in your questions. And if you know somebody that is like intrigued with this whole AI thing, but they don't quite understand how it matters to them, then just tag them down under and invite them so that we get as many people as we can, because I promise our special guest today is going to deliver the goodies. And if you just want to hey, my audience would love this, just hit that S button and sprinkle it out into the world. Okay. We would love it. All right. So let's talk about who our special guest is today. So I am one of those people that when I meet someone and then I don't remember them, I'm immensely embarrassed. It's just it really bothers me. And so I first met Katie at Social Media Day Denver, evidently, and I did not remember. So I was so embarrassed when she said, "We've actually met." And I'm like, okay. So I hate when that happens to me, even though I've met literally thousands of people over the course of my, social media and online career. But still, it's super embarrassing when I don't remember somebody. But I promise you, I will remember her from this day. I mean, from the second time I met her, because she's incredible. We spoke at the same event just recently. She has got an amazing personality. You guys are going to love her. So let me tell you a little bit about her, though. So she has been revolutionizing social media marketing with her less than more, or less is more approach. Now, who doesn't want that, right? With over 19 years of experience, she's developed a unique 4-post strategy that drives growth while reducing content. Again, who doesn't want that? This method uses Katie's platform agnostic storytelling tailored to each brand's goals. From boosting social media for AT&T and DirecTV to offering services for solopreneurs, Katie understands the median's evolution, and Lord knows it is absolutely evolving. So she blends journalism with social media savvy to help her clients attract the ideal audience and achieve measurable results efficiently. So, hang on, I hit the wrong button there. So I get, guys, put your hands together. So Katie, welcome, welcome, welcome. So,
So much for having me. Yay. You
yeah.
know what, Kim, I'm so honored that we were able to connect again. And I can't, like you said, you meet thousands of people. It's okay that you didn't remember that we connected before. Totally okay. You left a lasting impression on me because every time you take the stage, you just drop such great value bombs. So
Oh,
you
thank
left a
you.
lasting impression on me. So thank you so much for inviting me to be on your
Yeah.
show.
Well, I'm super excited because this is we talked some while we were at the this at the event we both recently spoke at, AOC up in Maine. And of course, we could geek out on this stuff forever, but I feel like
Mhm.
there's so many others that need to be brought into this conversation and start understanding how it matters to them. So I like my first question to you is a little like, remember back in the early days of live streaming, like I can distinctly remember the first time that I like, pressed the go live button.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
there's the whole AI space now. So let's time travel back just a little bit and tell me like what was your first like touch point with AI, and like what was your impression at that point in time? I just like that backstory because I think even though it's so still fresh for a lot of people, like some of us have been doing AI for a while now. So what did that look like when you first like got
Yeah.
exposed?
Well, I remember my first experience with AI. It was right after like the pandemic, and I was at uh, Podfest or no Podcast Movement in Dallas, and it was in the summer. I want to say maybe in July of 2021, maybe 2022. So not that long ago. And these two cute Australian ladies came up to me and they said, "Hey, we have this great new tool. We'd love for you to try out, and it's so great. It's this AI tool, and it's going to just revolutionize your podcast." And I was like, "Okay." I don't need robots helping me with my podcast. Thanks, but no thanks. You guys are cute and all, but no. Um, I got there, I connected with them, and they were like, "Well, we'll let you use our tool for free. Just let us know what you think of it." And so I was like, "All right, well, I'm always down to try things for free." So I tried it out, and I was like, pretty cool. Again, I'm not going to let a robot, write for me. Nobody can write as good as me. So I tried it. I thought it was all right, and I kind of just went on and continued doing things the way I'd always been doing it. And that was my first introduction to AI. But honestly, I don't think I appreciated it as much as I should have because I already was dismissing what the capabilities were. Like the tool, essentially, it gave me thousands of pieces of content with the click of a button. And I just still was like, well, this isn't good enough. Um, and I think that that's where a lot of us sometimes are like, we don't even give it a chance to really, well, it's not as good as a human. So that was
Yeah.
my first
So
introduction with it. It wasn't that long ago, but the tool's called CapShow. It's
yeah,
incredible. I
yeah.
I use the tool every day, and I think it's a great tool for any content creator. It's really revolutionized. They've made some great changes with it. Deidre Shen is the person in charge of CapShow, but
Yeah.
that was my first
So
introduction to AI.
okay, well, whoa. First of all, like, how long have you been mimicking amazing uh what do you, yeah, you did such a great impersonation, Australian accent. Like, can you do others? Like,
Oh man, no.
great.
Well, thank you. No, that's just my Aussie. She'd probably be very proud of me if but she probably would say, "Is that what you think I sound like?" But yeah.
No, so I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, that is so great." When I first started with live streaming, I all these people that had great accents, like, a UK accent or an Australian accent, they were really big being, drawing massive audiences, and I'm like, "Man, I need an accent." And so somebody's like, "Well, you have one." And I'm like, "What? No, I don't." So, but that's great. It's such a great way to, like, lean into the story too. Which we're going to talk more about the story or storytelling in a little bit, but so cool. So basically, I love something else that you said is so often, and I think this is absolutely 100 and maybe 1,000% true. I see a lot of entrepreneurs who, if they can't see what it can do for them, they do dismiss it.
Hmm.
It's like you have to see it to believe it. And then when you see it, it's almost like it's too good to be true. Like,
Yeah.
this can't be right. Like, if it's too good to be true, it's not, it's just not, it's not
Oh,
viable.
yeah,
So
this it can't be good because it was that easy. There's no way this
yes,
is actually good because it literally all I did was click a button. So it's probably terrible.
it's yeah, absolutely. And I think so. One thing I want to pull out there is if that's you, if you're like, oh my gosh, like that sounds so like me because I can't see it, I can't feel it, I don't, I think it's like the robotic, it's like, whatever your reasoning is, and feel free to drop those reasons in. We'd love to hear from you. But if that's you, I want you to like stop and lean in a little bit because I think you're going to learn some amazing things today from those that's probably we're in the same boat as you, just like Katie just said. She's like, I was that person. I mean, I go back a little further back to Watson days. And, when I first saw Watson, like, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, whenever it was, maybe longer than that, I was like, yeah, no, I just didn't see it. And so don't feel lonely, is my point. If you're the person who hasn't really embraced it yet, it's okay.
Mhm.
But maybe today's the day you stop not embracing it. Okay. Because it is pretty amazing. So, okay. How, in your opinion, is social media being affected by AI? I mean, this is a big overarching question, but like just talk about some of the ways you're seeing it shift the way content is in the AI space.
Oh man, I think that we're at a really interesting crossroads right now. And I think, you and I talked a little bit about this, at the event that we were both at, Kim. We're at a really important time with AI right now because there's a lot of decentralization that's going to be happening with social media. And there's an abundance of content that's happening right now as it is. There's over 95 million pieces of content created to Facebook every single day. 95 million pieces of content. That's a lot of content created every single day. So how on earth can you stand out in a sea of competition? And it's more important than ever for us to create human to human connections. But here's this great new tool that we can use as our assistant to make things our lives easier. So, how can we use this tool, this AI robot, these little robots in our pocket to help make our lives easier with social media, but still make stronger connections than ever? And this is where we have to be really careful with how we're showing up online. We have to make sure that we are showing up as, because I mean, I we can mimic we can clone our voices. We can, clone ourselves and have our own little digital clones out there to make videos even. How can you show up and build connections and it's you, but you can still use AI to make shortcuts and make it easier. So I think that with social media especially, we have to be really careful with how we're using AI to for our businesses right now. Yeah, I don't think I really answered your question. I think that it's
No,
it's
no, but
it's a
there's
time of being careful.
well, but there's so many lanes that we could like spiral off of there, because I do agree with you that there's. I mean, we're in a sea of content um,
Yes.
on the daily, and I'll speak for myself, and I would love it if the rest. I mean, feel free to jump in, anyone else on this. I almost feel like anymore it's almost too much work to get on social because my brain cannot comprehend all this stuff. Like, I'm like, okay, I go on social now to find something specific. That's been my kind of my go-to probably for the past year or so.
Mhm.
Whereas before, I would go on social media to kind of just see what everybody else was doing. But now I'm just overwhelmed when I get on there. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's just so much stuff, and it's getting worse and worse. But from a content creation perspective, I think we absolutely have to. I 100% agree with you. When with AI, and let's talk about some specific ways. I think this will be helpful for people who are like, okay, I don't quite understand how this matters to me, but some specific ways that someone can insert their human essence, if you will, their personality, their vibe. I've always said your vibe attracts your tribe, right?
Yeah.
But if you're using AI, like how can you like infuse it with your personality instead of it being like generic and I call it a sea of sameness. What would that look like for somebody who's like, yeah, I need to do this, but tell me how?
Yeah, and what I think that with standing out in a sea of sameness, that's a great way of putting it because with social media, there is so much content, and a lot of it is the algorithm giving us what it thinks we want to see. It's not even from people that we follow. So how can you then compete with people that aren't, that your followers don't even, follow? So it's tricky. So what I recommend doing is I have a four post strategy, and I think that it's really important to know exactly who it is that you're talking to. And I've the majority of my followers are on Instagram, and I've actually abandoned them this year in 2024. I have mostly just gone on to stories and updated my Instagram stories, but I create content only for Facebook and LinkedIn now because there's just so much content to create, and I just can't keep up with it over there. So I'm only creating content over on Facebook and LinkedIn. Now, how am I using AI for this? Well, for my four post strategy, my I've trained my ChatGPT, which is what I use. There's a ton of tools out there, but I have avatars in ChatGPT for my audience personas for Facebook and LinkedIn. So I'll write a post for Facebook, or I'll just write and say, okay, now please rewrite this for my Facebook avatar. Please rewrite this for my LinkedIn avatar. Because my LinkedIn avatar, they're a very different audience. They're mostly CEOs. I work the majority of them. That's where I get all of my agency leads. So I have a social media agency and podcast production company. That's where I get all my agency leads is over there. And so that's the end goal. Those are the people that I'm writing for over there. Now on Facebook, I do a lot of coaching and I sell a lot of DIY stuff. I sell a lot of books over there. So that my audience over there, it's a little bit of a different end goal, and it's tailored. My message is tailored just a little bit differently for that audience. So I think that when you train your AI model and it knows exactly who your ideal client is, your avatar is, who it is, what your end product is, what your end goal is, and say, okay, here's my caption I want to write. Please rewrite this for this audience in my tone and style. And it will help give you the right message for that audience so that you're putting out the right message so that it's resonating with the people that matter on that platform.
Yeah, so good. I think the one thing that I think a lot of people don't really understand is that AI comes out of the box with all this info. Like,
Mhm.
it basically has, and I would argue to say it literally has access to most data at this point in time. And historic from back to like, caveman days kind of thing. It's got so much information, but you know what it's missing? It's missing you.
Yes.
And the interesting part is that you can train it in your business, you can train it in your voice, and you should. That's how you ultimately stand out. It's just like Katie was just saying, if it knows your customer avatar, you give it that information. If you give it, samples of your voice, then it starts to write like you do. It starts to sound like you. I mean, it basically is a sponge for knowledge. If you look at it like that, it can be your knowledge, and you should teach it to be a kind of like a creative partner for you.
Mhm.
Um, and I think once that happens, then you'll see a lot of more magic happen. So let's talk real quick about your 4 point content strategy, four post strategy. I think it's
Yeah.
gold. And can you like explain it and tell everybody what it is?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy too because I don't know, Kim, have you ever tried just typing in to ChatGPT? I recently typed in what is Katie Brinkley's four post strategy, and it came up with
It
my four.
knows. It
Yeah.
knows. That's my point. Like, when I was doing the questions for you for this podcast,
Yeah.
and so I had to do the research for your book. Like, I wanted
Yeah.
to know like some of the things that your book talked about, and I didn't have time to read it. Sorry. And so I was like, I need the highlights. Like, right, I need to know like what her book is all about. So yeah, that's how I found out about your post strategy. The funny part about this is that literally there's so much information. Like, I don't even have to tell it my voice because I've got so much information, so much
Mhm.
content out there. It knows my voice. It can mimic my voice. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's off. I will not. But the point is that a lot of my stuff is out there. Doesn't mean that you may not be in that boat, but your point is great because if you do have content, it knows, like, it already
Yeah.
has that information. And so when you say just type in into chat gpt Katie's 4.4 post
Four post
strategy,
strategy.
it
Yeah.
comes up with something, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I mean, like, so there you go. I mean, this, no need to buy the book. No, you should still buy the book. But it's so the four post strategy is designed to post less on social media and give your target audience exactly what they want, and the Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram algorithm exactly what it wants. So it's, ooh,
Magic. That's
that,
where we
yeah,
want, that's what we
magic.
want, right? Like, we want that magic. So she just said some magical words, so I had to sprinkle some magic on it.
So it essentially, if you have a podcast, a live show, a blog, if you have a frequently asked questions tab on your website, you can start there. All you need is essentially a theme of the week. So, a theme of the week, and then you're going to reverse engineer people from what action it is that you want to take. So whether it's listen to the podcast or book a call or sign up for the webinar, whatever it is, you have an end goal that you want people to take, and you have a bit of content, again, whether it's a podcast, a live interview, a frequently asked questions tab, whatever. And that's how you're going to generate the content to get people there. So you can take that little bit of content and you're going to reverse engineer people to get there. And it's called the awareness to action strategy. And it's taking the one post at a time and getting the right people to raise their hand and using the algorithms to help get the right people into your feed for the rest of the week. So if Facebook is your platform that you're regularly posting on, an awareness post would be just one single sentence. Maybe it's a stat or an unpopular opinion or a quote, just on it's like a one sentence on a different colored background. I wish there was a better term for it. But those get the most reach and they're very shareable. People can comment on them. Those get the most engagement. Takes you maybe 6 seconds to make that post. So that will be your first post, and then you're done. And then the second post is the elaboration post. This is your thought leadership post. This one will take you the most time. Again, this is where having your ChatGPT, your avatar built out, you can write something and then say, please rewrite this for my Facebook avatar. And it will write it for your Facebook avatar. And then post that for your elaboration post. And then the third post is your community post. This is what social media was made for. This is where you bring the you into your social media. So, how did you overcome this problem? How did you help a client overcome this? A client testimonial. If share a clip from the podcast interview. This is where you can make your social media relatable. And it should be the funnest post that you share every week. You can use family photos, you can use personal photos, selfies, whatever. This should be the easiest post that you do every week because it's about you or a client or customer that you helped. And then the fourth post is the action post. Notice those first three posts, we never were asking people to leave social media. We just were giving value and getting the right people to raise their hand, showing thought leadership, showing them why they can know, like, and trust us. And now, hey, by the way, I have something for you that can help solve your problem. Here you go. Here, go solve this problem by leaving social media with me. Because the platforms don't want people to leave social media. And nobody goes on to social media to go visit websites or to go listen to podcasts or to go visit YouTube. They're on social media to kill time. And so you have to get the right people on there to raise their hand and say, "Oh man, this is great. She's been talking about it all week. I had no idea that she had this offer. I'd love to know more. I'm willing to leave social media to go one step further with her."
Yeah. See, and that's such a brilliant strategy. And what I love about it is that it's a very deliberate. I think so often, so many people don't really have a social media strategy. And one of my biggest frustrations over the years has been that there's really no plan to move them from social media to a place you own. And it's imperative, I think, that if you don't have that strategy in place, which is one of the reasons I love yours, Katie, is you need one. You need a strategy because the reality is, like we said, we've said it already. You know it because you're experiencing it yourself. People are overwhelmed by a sea of content. So,
Mhm.
if you're and so your content has to matter to them in some context, and then you have to have a path for them to start working with you in some capacity, which means you have to move them someplace that you own, so that you can continue to nurture that relationship.
Yeah.
So
Well, and Kim,
yeah.
I think too, it people are get con you know, it over
Oops. Well, I think we lost Katie. Hopefully she'll come right back on. At first, I was like, is it me or is it her? But so I'm assuming you guys can still see and hear me. Let me know. I tell you, one thing you can always count on when it comes to live video is tech related issues almost every time. So we'll give her a minute to come back on. And again, I'm assuming everybody can still see and hear me. Let me know if you can or you can't. It says we're still live, so hopefully we are. Sometimes you never know. All right, good. Okay, so excellent. All right, we'll give Katie a second. Looks like she got bounced off. But one of the things that we were talking about, and I'll just fill in real quick while we're waiting on Katie to get back. We were talking about the sea of content and then showing up with some strategy when it comes to. All right, here we go. She's back. Hey, Katie.
Hi! I don't know what you heard, but that was really weird. All of a sudden, I just said sinking, sinking, and that's the joy of lives, you know?
I That's what I just said. I was like, you can count on it almost every time that there's going to be when you're live. There's going to be some like issue because it's just like I don't even know why it happens, but it certainly does. But I think we were just kind of at that place where you were talking about obviously sea of content, and then we got to
Oh,
back to we were talking about moving people from social media, having a strategy essentially.
yeah, well, and essentially, the main thing I wanted to say was you don't need to create more. Essentially, you just created 4 posts out of one topic, you know, and if you could create even more if you wanted to, if you're only producing 1 podcast a month. There's so many things we've talked about in this episode already, from, you know, the cap show to, you know, ChatGPT personas to the 4 post strategy. If you really wanted to, that's 3 different weeks worth of content that you could micro content out for
Mhm.
produce, you know, to talk about with this episode. So I think
Mhm.
that you don't need to create more content. It's really just looking at the content that you have and recognizing, okay, how is this one thing that I talked about going to help my ideal client and customer? How is this going to solve their problem?
I love that you said that because I have this program called Content to Profit, and it's it's a different strategy than what you're referring to, but it just tied into what you just said. Basically, I feel like from a sea of content perspective, we have got to get smarter with our
Hmm.
content. You know, we've got to matter in them, and I think a lot of what I would call fluff content, because there's a lot of that out there. It's not that fluff content doesn't get engagement; it absolutely does. But we've gotten really specific and focused with our clients and teaching them how to create problem centric content. So, you know, hooking them with, do you have this problem? You know, kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's like, you know, and once they self-identify into that, then you've hooked them, so to
Yep.
speak, right? Like, so they're like, oh yeah, okay, I do have that problem. They're more inclined to listen, but always keeping it short usually. But going back to that, one of the things I find that so often people get hung up on is just the ideation. And that's where all content starts. So, one of the reasons that I think AI is brilliant and using it from a creative partner perspective, and I'd love your take on this, is like, how, like, if you're that person who sits down in front of your computer and you're like, they're going to implement your 4 point your 4 post strategy, and they're like, I don't even know where to start. Like, I
Mhm.
know she said all I needed was an idea, but like, how do you work with someone who is that person who's sitting there pulling their hair out? Don't, how would you tell them to say, "Look, go to AI," and what would you tell them to do to jumpstart that creativity?
Yeah. Oh man. So I mean, this is where sitting down with AI at the very beginning, we kind of touched on this at the beginning, Kim, with having it know your tone, your voice, and your ideal client avatar, knowing exactly who it is that you're talking to. Because if you know, if the robot knows who it is that you're talking to, it can help pull out the pain points, like what the different problems are that they need solved. So I think that if you have a podcast, so perfect example. I had JP High Tech on my podcast. Oh man, maybe almost close to a year ago now, and we talk all about YouTube and like how great YouTube is, blah blah blah, YouTube. But at the very beginning, he shared a story about how he lost his entire YouTube channel with over 100,000 subscribers and what he had to do to get it back and how important email was. But that was maybe 5 minutes of the beginning of the podcast. Right when about 2 weeks after his episode came out, this is when Facebook went down for, I want to say, maybe 6 hours. And I decided this would be a great story to share and do an entire 4 post strategy about the importance of building, an owned audience through email or something and using JP's story. So it's really important for your GPT to know all the content that you have, because then you can say, hey, do I have any past conversations about X where it's really important to talk about owning an audience, and it can be a resource library for you. So I think that really looking back and using it so that it's your it's your assistant. Like it knows you inside and out. It knows all of your content inside and out, and it knows your ideal client avatar inside and out, so that you can create content for your client and not just for everybody. You don't need to be for everybody. You need to be for your client and customer. And that's where it's very different showing up on social media as a business owner versus showing up on social media as an influencer.
Oh, such a great point. And that takes me to kind of another, I know before we segue to that, because I definitely think there's a place to go with that too. In fact, it's one of my questions. But one of the things that I just really want to highlight for everybody who's like maybe on the fence, you haven't really figured out how to leverage this whole AI thing to your benefit. Something Katie just said is, and we've done this. We have a whole process flow. I feel like AI is about it's about a framework. It's about a step by step process. You know, when you're first getting started, you train it in your business, your voice, your customer avatars, you know, your offers, all the things, so that it does have that clarity and it can give you personalized content. But one of the things that is invaluable is the ability to use it to identify your customers' problem sets and from different avenues, because most of us know our people have certain things, like, right, like
Hmm.
I know my people struggle with content creation. I understand the frustration of sitting down in front of your computer and not knowing what to post on social media, and you're, you know, pulling your hair out. Like that visual, I've used it over and over again because it we know it, like we feel that. But there's so many things that you probably don't have a touch point on simply
Hmm.
because you haven't sat down to make the list, or
Yeah.
you haven't thought it through to the nth degree like AI will. So using AI is that creative partner to like pull out all of those pain points and perspectives, buyer beliefs, like all those things can now be, we can touch on, like, right. I can
Yes.
see Kate getting excited about this
Well,
because
and you
yeah.
said the magic word. You said using AI as that creative partner,
Yes.
not the replacement. Like
Right.
it's the creative partner, and that's, it goes back to that question that you asked me earlier about how can we use, so AI with social media, and it's as that creative partner. We have to use it as a partner, not as a replacement, because the second that we start using AI to replace us, then it's just going to be robots talking to robots on social media, and that's not what social media was made for. It was
Yeah.
made to build connection. It was made to build community, and use it as that partner to make you build better community. So sorry,
Yeah.
you just got me really excited.
No, I know we get excited about this stuff, but one of the things that your book talked about, um, is the road back to community. And I think, in the early days of social media, it was so much easier really to facilitate community. And I've
Yeah.
always looked at community and audience very differently. And I'll
Hmm.
explain my perspective and then I'd love yours. Always felt like audience is just your followers, like, and I don't mean that, just that sounded like I was discounting them. Not at all. But I feel like community is something that is interact. It's not just me sharing my thoughts with an audience of people. It's the back and forth between that community, that audience, if you will. When we can get on a live, for example, and people are talking with each other as well as myself, like, or
Yeah.
with Katie, that is true community, where and maybe supporting each other or collaborating with each other or whatever. When you build a holding place for commonality, common themes, or common solutions to problems, or whatever that is, and then everybody participates in that, at different levels, because you always have the lurkers, but then you have the participators. And so for me, community is about that participation as a
Hmm.
whole. Um, what do you think? Because I know you talk about road back to community, and I'd love it if you could share like a story maybe that you might have where AI has helped facilitate, um, kind of that road back to community.
Well, this is something that you and I talked about at the conference here, Kim, and I don't want to go down too far down this road if you don't want to, but with where we're going, with social media and the internet, the guys with all the money, Elon, Zuck, they have all the money. And about 4 years ago, NFTs were taken off. Bitcoin was, crypto was being talked about. Web3, we were all, wearing the Oculus, and the metaverse was being talked about all the time. And then, we had the big crypto crash, and people, I mean, remember there was ads during the Super Bowl for crypto. And then there was a big crash, and no one really is talking about it anymore. And just because people aren't talking about it doesn't mean that the guys with the money aren't still investing in it. And so I I want us to be very cognizant with how we're showing up online, because when we were first starting out on social media, back in the days of MySpace, we were showing up and writing on each other's walls. We were going out and having to actively engage and connect. There was no feed. We were having to go out and say, I am going to write on Kim's wall, like on her message board, and say hello, whatever, before there was even a feed. And that's how we were connecting, building our communities. And when there is a decentralized social media, when it is decentralized Web3, and we are not relying on algorithms, we're going to have to take our communities into this decentralized world and still create content for them that they want to see from us. And how are you going to do that? Because it's not this massive, I'm just going to create a whole bunch of content, random content, and hope random people follow me. It's creating content that is specifically for your target audience. So I hope I didn't go too far down the rabbit hole with that, Kim.
No,
But
I'm so glad you brought this up and from I think, a very value-based perspective. So I was telling Katie when we were at the AOC event that I'm heavily involved now in this whole blockchain space, and I've been positioning all of this, even here on this podcast, as the future. It is absolutely the future, and I hope you remember this in a few years when you're like, oh, wow, I remember Kim and Katie talking about this. But because you can't see it yet, you're not like maybe in tune with it. Trust me, it is absolutely happening. It's not just coming, it's here. You're just not seeing it because
yeah,
nobody really is educating so much on it yet. But there, one of the projects that I'm involved with is a decentralized social media platform. So it is being built, it is coming, and of course now, right, wrong, or indifferent with whatever you believe with the current switch in the administration, there's going to be a big push to start educating people around the crypto space in particular. These
hmm
spaces are entwined. So, and I think how it's going to matter to us is exactly what Katie was just saying, is we're no longer going to be reined in by the algorithm. Now, you may be thinking, that's amazing, finally. But let me say it again. We're no longer going to be reined in by the algorithm. Well, what's going to be the parameters? Exactly what Katie just said. We're going to have to create kick butt content for the people we serve, because
hmm
that's the only way they're going to tune into us. It's not going to be dished up to them. It's not going to be served to them. And, so it's going to be great because we're really going to build community again, but it's also going to mean we're going to have to be super intentional with our content. So I love that you set that up. I know, again, this is a little deeper maybe than what you guys were like, oh my gosh, but this
well,
is this is here.
it's this is where it's going, and it we might not be able to see it right now exactly like Kim, like what you said, but the guys with the money, with
Yeah.
the billions of dollars, they are investing in it, and it will be moving this way, and it might be moving this way sooner than we think.
Yeah.
It could be this way in 3 years. It could be this way in 1 year. It could be this way in 30 years. But
Yeah.
who knows? I think that the sooner that you try and just really be intentional with your social media and making those connections. So when you're engaging on social media, yes, there's AI bots that can go out and comment on posts for you. And it'll be very easy and it's very affordable. But you know what? That's not building community. There's something that really it did that does wonders for me by actually being the person that comments on other people's posts and responds to people that comment on my post, because then it feels like you already know that person. That's what builds the community, is the whole being social on social media. And again, I know that use AI as that partner to help you make the content specifically for that person on that platform, but don't use it to replace you, because more than ever, you have to be building the content to build a community, because who knows when, you're not gonna be relying on algorithms anymore.
Yeah. And that goes back to us really understanding who we are here to help.
Hmm.
And you started with that. And I really want to kind of like cement that. I think so often we hang a shingle and we sometimes don't even define our offers super well for the
Yeah.
person that we think we're here to serve. Um, and so, when it comes back to social, I think we're absolutely in a big evolution, and I think it's going to happen sooner than later. And I know you talked about the people with money. Lots of times when you have vision for something, it's like, and I'll drop this and I'll let y'all think about it. But why in the world would Elon Musk, who is obviously extremely wealthy, buy Twitter? Why? Like, right? It probably wasn't for what we see today. That's not his style, personally. But what it is going to become is what I want you to kind of think forward on. I think it's potentially, going to be something much bigger than we see it as now. So
Yeah.
it'll be really interesting. The point is that the innovation is happening very quickly, and a lot of the social platforms have innovated, and we've been able to see it. Like, that's one of our biggest frustrations is all the change that happens on the daily, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I think the evolution of social is absolutely changing, and I think we're going to have to get social again.
Well,
We're going to have to talk with
preach.
people.
Yeah, yeah, preach. Yeah, no, I 1000% agree. And know where your people are. Like I said, the majority of my followers are on Instagram, but it I wasn't finding that I was well, one, I wasn't getting my leads there anymore.
Mhm.
So that was one thing. So was the ROI there? And two, I wasn't getting the engagement there that I was over on Facebook or LinkedIn. And so I mean it wasn't worth my time. And I mean honestly, like, I'm not a short form video gal. My ops, my COO that is in, she's big on short form video, so she's really trying to get me back on it, and helping me with that. But short form videos my Achilles heel, and so I obviously TikTok and Instagram just aren't my jam. And so you have to know where you feel comfortable creating content. You have to know where you feel comfortable engaging and building community. And for me, I just felt I wasn't comfortable over there anymore. And so I had to make a decision. Well, I feel comfortable over on LinkedIn. If I have time, like at Starbucks while I'm waiting for my coffee to get made, I'm opening up Facebook and I'm scrolling the feed over there. That's where Facebook's getting my data. When I have the time, they're getting free Katie time. So think about where you're giving the, social
Your attention.
media your free time. And if it's one of the platforms that you're not really enjoying and you're still creating content for it, yes, it's super easy just to hit the toggle, but you have to give on these platforms. You have to comment. You have to comment back. You have to create content for the people that are there. And if you're not giving, then the community is not going to happen.
You made several like amazing points in that I just want to pull out. I think lots of times people hear, okay, well, I'm doing XYZ strategy on Instagram and I'm just killing it. And then therefore people gravitate to that thinking they have to do the same thing in order to kill it, right? Kill it being a loose term of success. Okay. I'm not meaning you have to go kill something. But I just want to clarify that. It's just, and then, so going back to understanding who you're here to serve, and are you seeing an ROI from the places that you're creating content? If you aren't, so just like Katie, she's like, she released that. It's very hard sometimes to release an audience that you think you've built, even when you're not getting a return on it. So I just want to like understand that this you can let go of something that's not serving you, okay? And then do you enjoy creating the content that you're creating? That's two. And then the other thing I think that Katie really keyed in on is, and I wanted, again, when you're looking at trying to be successful in the social media space, you have to get back to you. Like, what really matters to you has to also matter to your person that you're here to serve. That goes back to the give side of this equation. When you wake up every day, what fires you up? Like, if it fires you up, you feed off. Not only do you feed off of that energy, but guess what? So do the people you serve. So, you got to get back to what really matters to you, so that you can show up and do amazing things for the people that you're here to help. So just thought I'd key in on those things, release the things that no longer serve you, show up in the places that, in the way that you want to, and the other thing is, if you don't want to do any of that like anymore, that's okay too. You find another way to serve, maybe it's a podcast. Maybe it's a YouTube channel. I mean, maybe it's not all the things, is my point.
Mhm.
There's people who do one thing, and they focus on that one thing, and it does amazing things for them. Okay, so we're going to try to wrap up, because in the interest of your all's time and Katie's time, I want to make sure that we honor that. But Katie, what is something that I should have asked but I didn't?
Oh man, I loved this conversation. I Kim, I think that one thing that I think we all should keep in mind, and we talked about it a bit towards the end of this, is using AI as that partner, but really being intentional with how you're showing up. If you don't have anything to say on social media, then you don't need to say anything. The generic, Happy Thanksgiving Canva graphic. You don't need to post it. Don't worry about it. There's plenty of those out there on social media. Just go ahead and pass it by. If you have nothing spectacular to say, then just there's enough other content out there. We don't need any more of it. So really be intentional with what you're putting out there. You don't need to post more. Use AI as that partner. I think, Kim, I'd love to know what tips you have on creating that ideal client persona. I talked about it for, how I rewrite my captions. Um, in ChatGPT, like I said, luckily, like, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but like ChatGPT does know the 4-post strategy now. But
Yes.
like, do you have a way of prompting to help build out your ideal client personas? Because it
Yes.
it made a world of difference once I trained my GPT for
Yeah.
for my audiences.
Well, so I basically I spoke about this real briefly, and I'll try to sum it up too, because I don't want to spend too much time on this. But although this is basically the framework for all things I do in social media. So keep that in mind. What I'm getting ready to say is important. So, at least from my perspective, anyway. But times past, we have not had access to customer data. Like, right, like we have. If we did, it took a ton of money to get access to, you know, data points. I'll call it, whether it's customer research, I guess maybe. So now, with the advent of AI, we can now basically do customer data, customer research, for any avatar or any vertical or any space. And so I usually start with real research, instead of just saying, okay, well, I think I know my person. So, for example, when you start with real research, and I have this huge like prompt that goes into all the data points that you would need to collect on. And that information is invaluable because it's the baseline for all the other things. So once I've got the customer data broke out, then we go into, okay, based on this information, who is my avatar? And I usually build out a series of 5 avatars, because the reality is, we have different, like, I may have a mom who's 35 and two kids. I may have a 55-year-old man who has different problem sets, who doesn't shop at Target, Target end caps or whatever. The point is that I usually build out, but 5 avatars, they have obviously the same problems. Okay, so
Hmm.
keep that in mind. They have the same problems, and I can help them solve those problems, but they're very different avatars. They're very different. The way
Yes,
they
they're
approach,
they're very different avatars.
yes.
That's so important. I
Mhm.
so many I love that. Sorry, I'll let you finish. I just got so excited because so many times people think like, okay, well, I post on LinkedIn and it's like, well, no, there's different people that buy from you on LinkedIn that then buy from you on Instagram, and then you have different things that you can sell them. Yeah, so anyways, yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry, I
So,
just
but
got real excited.
Well, the reality is, most of us say, like my person, I'll just give you an example of what I used to say. Okay. Well, my person is a woman, primarily a woman, or few smart men, but primarily a woman between the ages of blah, blah, blah. She has 2.5 kids, 2 dogs. She shops at Target on the end caps. Like, I thought I had my avatar all built out. Like, and so doing this whole AI thing has really enlarged my thought process, and it has enlarged my ability to attract different people from different lanes, still solving the same problems, but again, addressing my content from different lanes. Whereas before, I was very singularly threaded through that one person, that one
Hmm.
avatar, Sarah, who even named her. Well, I still
I
name my
named one of my
avatars,
avatars Sarah too.
but I definitely have a more robust framework. And then I build out, what do they have to believe in order to buy from me? I build out their problem sets, and the problem sets, interestingly enough, are very different, even though they have commonality. But the way
Hmm.
they approach them and the way they message them are very different. Are very different. So once you use AI as your creative partner to identify all those things, and you start, well, what language do they use? What language are they going to actually resonate with? um, and then it just keeps the snowball rolling. But Rhonda just dropped it in. We have a masterclass, AI Advantage masterclass, that teaches my whole process flow for this, because I
That
feel like if you do this,
that's
yeah.
the most important thing, training your AI.
Yes.
Everybody sign up for that masterclass because once you train your AI, that, then you have your AI partner. I mean, and
Yes, then you
everything
have
that
your
we
AI
talked about
partner.
today is going to be like,
Exactly. Yes. And I think that's the critical path. And then there's so many other things that you can start to spin off from that. Like, okay, like, Tom over here, who might be 55 and still has the same content struggle that Sarah, who's 35 and 2 kids, has, but they approach it from two different lanes. And the way they speak about it and the way they feel from a belief perspective is totally different. So it just
mhm,
gives you a whole other layer of, and you think you may know your people, but you don't know your people until you go through this process.
yep.
It's just a fascinating thing. And I'm always like, okay, I've been messaging this all wrong. That's the other thing. Once you get clarity on your people, then your messaging starts to come into play and it starts to get clear. Whereas before, there's so many times when you're like, I'm just stuck. I don't know how to talk to this person. I don't know what I should say. I don't know how to write the sales copy for this, or I don't know how to write the email for that, or I don't know how to put this post out on social media. It helps you pull all that stuff together.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can tell I'm a little passionate about this stuff.
No,
So
I love it because it's so true. It's and I know we're at the mark, but I mean, I when you have the master class, everybody do the master class because it's gonna once you train your AI, then you'll get it. It's like this is the way.
yeah,
So
it's
it's
like, yeah, we should make a Star Wars shirt for this,
yes,
right?
this is the way.
Little Yoda, this is the way, y'all.
Yes.
So, Katie, tell everybody how they find you. I've got your website down, but where would you like people to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, KatieBrinkley.com is great. You can connect with me on my socials there. You can get the book there. You can listen to the podcast there. So KatieBrinkley.com is the place to go, and then you can choose your own adventure from there.
I love that. Choose your own adventure. Do you have anything that you want to close out with something that, however you want to do it? I'll leave it to you.
Yes. Well, I will end it with this. You don't need to post on social media so much. If you are sitting there and you're saying like, well, I need to put, no, you know what? You're an adult. You don't need to do anything. So this is your get out of jail free card. You don't need to post if you don't know what to post. So take a step back, take Kim's masterclass, take her AI masterclass, build out that customer persona, that ideal client persona, read up on the 4 post strategy and the social shift. It's available on Amazon or wherever you get books, on Barnes and Noble, and really start creating your social media for your ideal client. Start creating as a business owner, not as an influencer.
So good. And dang it, we didn't even get to the influencer thing, and I so wanted to do that.
Well, you just need
But
to have me come back on.
I
So,
know we'll just have to schedule another one because this whole influencer thing is a whole other like incredible space in some ways. It's got some not so good stuff too. But anyway, well, thank you so much for coming and joining us today. And guys and gals, those of you who are with us live and anybody listening on the replay, you're definitely going to want to follow Katie. Go buy her book. I think her 4 post strategy is brilliant. Less is more. No, more is less is
yeah,
more.
less is
Yes,
more.
I didn't
Less is
say it.
more.
I
Less is
said it
better.
right. Yes,
Less is the
less is
way.
more. Yes, again, we need T-shirts. You could do a whole line of Yoda T-shirts.
I
Less is
know.
but thank you, everyone, for joining us. I know your time is valuable. When you spend a little bit of it with us, we appreciate you. So take care of yourselves, stay safe, and God bless. We'll see you next week.